Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Pelvic Pain Unpacked. I am so excited today. I don't have Dr. Hill in tow. I have a special guest, Mathilde Olstad, who also runs a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. We're the world's tightest community, a podcast all about vulvovaginal pain conditions. And I hope I can do a good job of replacing Dr. Hill today.
Oh, well, don't tell her, but she's replaceable. I'm just
Forever up.
I,
Really bad through.
you know what? I once had a principal, like, as I worked in high school teaching, and I was doing an extra duty, extra pay position. And I was like, dude, this just doesn't pay enough. He's like, you know what? Everybody's replaceable. If you don't want to do it, we'll find somebody else. And I was like, ouch. And he's like, let me qualify that as they might not be as good as you in it, but you will be replaced. And I'm like, that sucks, but it's so true, right?
Yes,
like,
yeah,
you know
exactly. It's a good thing to realize. I was working up until recently in like a corporate environment, and I think that's a good thing to realize early in your career, because otherwise it really comes to bite you later on in life when you like giving it your all, and then you're like, oh, I was very much replaceable.
Yeah, I'm just a body doing stuff.
Yeah, I'm not this like snowflake. What?
Sadly, we are all replaceable. So anyway, but my replacement, Mathilde Olstad, you've got the world tightest community. What a great name for a podcast.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So tell me how you got here on a Pelvic Pain Unpacked podcast with a tight community, also pelvic pain podcast. Let's talk. Like, we met at ISHWISH, which is the international International Sexual Health and Wellness. Oh my gosh, ISHWISH.
I can help you. I can help you fill it in. International Society for the Study of Women's Sexual Health. It's a tongue twister.
You said that so nicely. Hold on. Yes, ISHWISH. That's why we call it ISHWISH.
Swish, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a funny question actually, because like thinking about it, I've been doing this podcast for a year, and there's been a lot of change in that year. As I mentioned, like a year ago, I was working in finance. I was living in London, and so my life has very much taken like a 180 over the last year. And so I think maybe we should start by going back a few years and telling you a bit about my story, because the podcast has really come from my own personal experience with vulvovaginal pain and pain during sex. So my story starts about 5 years ago. And I think it helps to kind of paint the picture of where I was at that point, because at that point I had just met my current partner, who is now my husband. And life was really great. It was really quite an optimistic time. I was just finishing up my master's degree in finance in Copenhagen. And I had just secured my job that I was going to start in after my studies. And again, I just met my partner, and we were having like a really great time. Life felt very like open and happy and joyful. And then all of a sudden, I just started experiencing this pain, first after sex and then also during sex.
Oh, interesting.
I'd never experienced it before. I had like a normal, if you will, sex life up until then, never experienced any type of pain or pain outside of sex, just like general vulvovaginal pain I'd never experienced before. And it just came out of the blue. And it was this like stabbing, raw, sore feeling, especially like around the entrance of my vagina, like around the vulva. And again, first after sex and then during sex as well. And in the beginning, I was thinking like, this is surely just something that will pass. I think the real turning point for me came when I started discovering these subreddits called vaginismus and vulvodynia subreddit. And at that point, I'd never used Reddit before. I thought it was just this platform that was reserved for gamers and young guys. And what I found was this really bustling community of women coming together and people who were experiencing these conditions coming together and being incredibly supportive of each other, helping each other out. And just there was this outlet for people to vent about their situations, to vent about all the crappy things that go along with experiencing this type of pain and the deep suffering that's there, and also celebrate their success in it as well. And I was just really touched by this community of people coming together and sharing their stories. And even though what I'm experiencing also, or what I'm realizing now more and more, is like the way that people's stories are with vulvodynia in particular is very, 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 people have very different journeys in terms of how their pain presents, why it presents, what treatments work. Like the paths are very different, but there are some of these core emotional experiences that become this common denominator amongst us. And so I was feeling for the first time a real sense of recognition. Oh, wow, I'm actually not alone in experiencing this.
That's amazing to just feel some validation, not from your doctors like, oh, a lot of people experience this, to actually hearing stories that resonate with you.
Yeah, exactly. And at that point, I reached out in the forum and I was like, does anyone want to come on a group call? Like, just like, I don't know, have some place to meet and just share our experiences. And in about 24 hours, we had 40 people signing up.
Wow.
And so I realized like, okay, people really want to just connect and like talk about their stories and talk about the things that we have in common and just speak to someone who knows what you're going through. And we had that call. It was really beautiful. It was a bit random because it was just last minute put together, but it was a really beautiful, heartwarming call. And I think that just sparked something in me like, wow, I really want to build something that is exactly what I've been missing all this time. Some place where I can get answers to all the questions that I have, because we're basically left to cater for ourselves with these type of conditions. And also just some place that I could feel like I had some form of belonging. Like these are people who are going through the same things as me, and they're like to some place where there was more openness about it. Because what I found as well was there's just so much taboo around these types of conditions, especially sexual pain, and something that I find is, it feels like almost like the last frontier within like women's health, like what we're comfortable talking about, because I find that there's so much progress within other women's health conditions like PCOS and PMDD, and even like talking more about menopause. And there's so much amazing awareness that's coming to that. But I found that this particular area of like vulvovaginal pain, sexual pain,
it's still very taboo.
I was really intrigued by the product and very excited to try them. And yeah, we had such a nice, it was so lovely speaking to you then. And I was really excited to learn more about the product, because CBD was something that I'd been very curious about myself. And I hadn't really ventured into it before I tested your product. So I tried, my favorite two products that I tried were the Pleasure product and the Wellness Plus.
Yeah.
And the way I've been using them so far has been primarily like using them vaginally before I do some form of dilator practice, which our listeners familiar with dilators.
If you're not familiar, if you're not familiar with dilators, Mathilde will tell you what dilators are.
Okay, well, dilators are essentially a tool that is often used for people who have pelvic pain, which is essentially like a dildo looking thing that
in different colors and sizes.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like a rainbow of dildos in different sizes that go from very small to longer and girthier.
Yeah.
And they're used often for people like me who experience hypertonic pelvic floor. So I've been using it mainly when doing my dilating practice. And I have found it to be, most of all, I think quite relaxing. I find that it gives like a nice, not a very like dramatic sense of calm, but like it feels like it dials down a bit of that anxiety that I feel when I know that I'm going to do my dilator exercises, because for anyone who's experienced some form of like penetrative pain, there's a lot of
this is going to hurt.
Yeah. It's, and I talk about this a lot in my podcast, like dilating is not something that most of us look forward to.